the new MyLowe's Pro Rewards American Express card. Earn 3 points per dollar spent on Lowe's qualifying purchases for the first 6 months after card account opening. Plus, save 5% every day on eligible purchases at Lowe's and earn points on eligible purchases everywhere else Amex is accepted. Card members get more at Lowe's. Subject to credit approval. 5% can't be combined with any other offer. Exclusions and restrictions apply. Points subject to loyalty terms at Lowe's.com/terms and credit reward terms at Synchrony.com/MLPRA-terms. Visit Lowe's.com/business credit.
Don't let your decision paralysis demon keep you from watching something great this weekend. Subscribe to ScreamShare, the newsletter that serves up a 5-minute breakdown of the best horror available on streaming. I'll have essential weekly movie picks covering new films, classics that you need to catch up on, and a movie that's always streaming for free. So subscribe now, and you can even be part of some frighteningly fun watch parties we're putting together that'll let you be part of the conversation. So click in the link in the show notes or go to screamshare.beehive.com. That's screamshare.beehive.com, and make sure you whitelist your welcome email so you can get updates for all of the news and updates. And now the body count continues. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right. We're talking about Donnie Darko on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from the good city of Middlesex. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. And today we're going to unpack all the goriest details of 2001's Donnie Darko in the hopes that a man in a bunny suit's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at his expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust completely with her commitment to sparkle motion. The one, the only Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
Yeah, but you did it again. You stole my joke.
I don't know that there's any other way to start it. As when that phrase was said during the show, and I watched this with Ollie because he was ill, and so we were looking for activities he could do supplying. And when she says that out loud, he openly guffawed, like one of the loudest laughs I've heard from him in a good while. I think last I was watching the Naked Gun movie.
Yeah, I was basically just going to say that I would never question your commitment to sparkle motion.
Yeah, I think we're all in our own ways, wondering what our individual commitments to sparkle motion are, considering who the powers that be are behind it. So, Gina, I guess maybe the audience is wondering, and in fact, several people I told we were doing this movie were wondering, why are you talking about Donnie Darko? And the thing is, while it's not that much of a hardcore horror film, it is tangentially horror related. There's a lot of horror stuff going on in it. And then on top of that, it's also highly Stephen King coded.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's definitely existential horror.
Yes. I would put this in league with, honestly, the two other the books that are visually name checked in the movie, which is It and the Tommyknockers. These things are just a little, It you like to think of as, well, that's a small town going to hell, and it absolutely is, as is the Tommyknockers. But the reason they're going to hell are cosmic entities, and here we have a cosmic disruption and a time loop and a whole bunch of things that I feel like Richard Kelly, the writer and director here, is specifically doing because of that fascination I think we all of a certain generation have with Stephen King's novels.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's the bones of it are there.
Yeah. And as such, I thought it important to give it its due. Maybe not so much to do the deepest of dives into its plot, because if there's any movie this season besides The Shining that has been overanalyzed, it is 2001's Donnie Darko. Just type it into YouTube and it's fucking endless.
There's been directors, as with usually is the case with these movies, there's been director's cuts, there's been multiple different interpretations of how people want to which I think the ending is pretty cut and dry.
Yes,
but it's the whole how it got there part that people tend to question and debate.
And I also think it is prime for a genre that YouTube specialized in 10 years back and has never really fully given up. But I think like when it came to film analysis on YouTube at a certain point, it was explaining to you a movie you might be slightly confused about. And then now it's explaining every movie as if the plot is as dense as Donnie Darko.
As if there could be multiple interpretations of what happens to various characters. I just want to take it back for a moment in the different Stephen King stories that sort of have been printed on to the plot for this movie. And I think you got to give a little bit of you got to point a little bit towards the Dark Tower books too.
Oh, 1,000%.
In terms of the concept of alternate timelines and sort of are different selves in these different timelines. And certainly I think that was a big influence on them as well. Yeah.
I mean, one of the big things that you can kind of sort of map onto Darko is the idea of a thinny. A thinny is a weak point in the Stephen King universe. A thinny is a weak point within one universe that allows people, things, maybe a supernatural entity or an alien to cross between one world and another. And they're talked about a lot in the Dark Tower stories. Anything that's even remotely Dark Tower connected generally has a thinny, especially two books that came to mind for me. One, The Talisman, and two, The Drawing of the Three. And in both those books, Jack Sawyer or Roland use thinnies to traverse space and time, to travel, in Jack Sawyer's case, to get from East Coast to West, and from Roland to get from one member of his quartet to the next. And to me, I'd love to hear from the audience, anybody, and certainly Donnie Darko is one of those movies where people have opinions. Like, what are the other examples that they might flash to their mind of like, what does Donnie Darko map onto? Because certainly another one that popped up for me that it was just randomly was the Langoliers.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I think you may be the first person to point out a possible influence of the Langoliers
on anything.
On anything. I love most. Well, that's not true. It is completely ironic. Love the TV movie adaptation of it, in which the Langoliers look like tribbles.
It's unfortunate early CGI stuff where they really are trying to limit the amount of it, but it's also in that sweet spot where these ABC miniseries or 2-night event things just did really, really well. And a lot of the Langoliers doesn't require big special effects, but the things that do, you kind of have to nail, and it does the opposite of nailing. It's the sight of the Langoliers breaks the movie in half.
Yeah, I mean, if you like, Critters did these things better than the Langoliers did.
It might be a classic example of that thing I used to bring up a lot early on in the podcast. And my initial theory was, if it looks good painted on the side of a van, it probably doesn't make a good movie.
Right.
I think over time, we've narrowed that gap quite a bit. But for this, the idea of this ball of teeth shredding old realities as time passes over it, and their job is just to clean up, that works on the page. And then when you try to realize it on screen, on an ABC 90s miniseries budget. You're like, oh, I don't know, guys. I don't know.
It's like, you gave it the old college try, but it needed a little more fine tuning.
Just a little bit. And, the last time I watched it, I would say about 10 years ago. And it is an interesting thing that we've had so much sort of apocalyptic storytelling in the time since that I guess I'm used to more modern rhythms of it. But everyone is so fucking calm in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
That they wake up on this airplane that's going cross country, and everyone who's fallen asleep during this flight wakes up, and all the awake people are gone. And they land at the nearest airport because they just happened to have a pilot on board who was taking a empty seat flight to get to where he needed to go. They land, and slowly over time, they figure out that they're in a pocket of quote unquote dead time. And these revelations where they're finding things left behind, and this is so odd, and here's this person's teeth and fillings, and they're just like so calm.
They're like, huh.
Interesting. Oh.
It's like remember I'm amused, and I was just talking about this with somebody, how often we bring up Harvey Birdman on this show.
Right.
And I'm just thinking of like the Dabadon, where like Fred Flintstone keeps threatening Harvey Birdman, and he's like, huh, I wonder what that means. And he just keeps waking up with like severed heads and
I know this means something, but I'm not quite sure.
They're like, huh, that shouldn't be happening. So, yeah, I think it's hilarious. Like, I love Bronson Pinchot's commitment to just being insane.
Yes.
But like, he goes insane because he's late for a meeting.
Right. And that's another one of those like characters who's so histrionic. And I think that works on the page. He's of a type, right? And you kind of see it in Donnie Darko in terms of the character mix. You have Mrs. Farmer, who's played by Beth Grant, who you can tell she's like one step away from losing it.
Right.
When she discovers that Jim Cunningham has a PDF file, if I'm going to put this in TikTok terms, and she's instantly like, he had to be set up by our local fire department. Why the fuck? Why would the fire department set him up?
I mean, when you think about it in not to keep dipping from this well, as I do so often, but if you look from modern terms, I mean, somebody would believe her. Somebody would buy it.
Yeah. It is pretty crazy. But you can tell like she's on the edge, right? And Pinchot is just, he's driven by this mania. And in the book, they really underlined how his dad was the person who pushed this. And it just doesn't quite translate to the screen. And it doesn't help that everyone else is like, huh, the food tastes sour. Water it doesn't taste right. Is that like someone's medical implant? Huh? How would that happen?
How'd that get outside his body?
And he's just like sweating nerves. Now, the Langoliers like presents this concept of a dead time pocket much faster. Like they land, and within hours they figure out, if we don't get out of here and go through that rip in time again, that Finney, we're going to get caught here. And while they don't necessarily believe the whole Langolier story, once they start shredding reality, they're like, oh, time to fly away now and leave Bronson Pinchot behind. So they do. Now, Donnie Darko is different in that it's given a 28-day window to nudge his universe back into the right path, or it will be consumed by what is essentially a black hole, or in another sense, just a mother Langolier.
Right.
So it's not that far away from that. And I think it's interesting that someone was able to encapsulate how they feel about King stories without really directly ripping him off, but more like, here are things I like that he evokes, and here's a story I want to tell using some of those puzzle pieces, but a lot of it are entirely his own.
Yeah, and also, while also bringing in elements of teenage alienation and mental illness, and just really pulls it all together in such a unique and haunting way.
Yeah, I agree. Watching it again, I was struck by how it really does feel in conversation with the sort of hipster cinema of the time of like movies like Go, where there's a lot of ramp up, ramp down sequences. Like the people are playing with this visual language a lot in independent cinema. And so you're getting a lot of the same vibes you do from completely different genres of movies, but every independent director is kind of like, I think I'm going to turn the camera sideways. when Darko jumps out of the back of the bus in that shot, which was, pretty famous. But now, having lived in a world post, like my kid has not watched Euphoria, but his friends have. And I bet you if I showed them this, they would go, oh, is this just ripping off Euphoria? You'd be surprised to know it's the other way around.
Well, but except like, Donnie Darko, leaves you feeling, existentially depressed.
Yeah.
Whereas, Euphoria leaves you depressed for another reason.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
The other book that this reminded me of, and of course this comes out after Darko, but there's a familiar sort of time phenomenon, because King doesn't do a bunch of time travel necessarily. Langoliers and then 11/22/63.
Yes, very much so.
When that lead character discovers that time openly resists change, like if you try to change things, time will try to foil those actions and just keep destiny on track. It does not like being fucked with.
Right. And then, of course, that all comes back to a sound of thunder.
Yes. The sort of butterfly effect, which King brought up himself when the miniseries first came out. He was interviewed by Wired magazine, and he had this to say in terms of time travel in his stories. It's a kind of a rule that you'd express as a ratio. The more potential a given event has to change the future, the more difficult that event would be to change. If you wanted to go back and speak to somebody on a street corner so they were 5 minutes late to an appointment, that might not be too hard. But if you wanted to stop the assassination of a president, that would be really difficult. The past would try to protect itself. There's an instantaneous butterfly effect. Every time you go back and change something, you create an alternate timeline. There are these guardians who stand watch over these time portals because they understand that whenever you go back, you damage the time-space continuum. And at the end, Jake meets one of them who tells him, every time you did this, you made the situation worse. And if you continue to do it, the entire universe will collapse.
Right. And I would say that with Donnie Darko, a really good, if not unsettling and saddening double feature would be with 12 Monkeys.
Sure, absolutely.
When I tell you that when I saw 12 Monkeys in the theater and I realized that the flashback the memory that Bruce Willis's character had of seeing a man running through an airport was him.
Yeah.
And that the kid was watching, like they existed in the same timeline, and an adult him and a child him. When I realized that, I literally said out loud in the theater, "Holy shit!" and it was genius, but like yeah, this was always what he was supposed to do, and they never told him that he was going to cross paths with himself.
No, because do they even know that he crosses paths with himself? That movie is dense. It's a dense cake, I tell you. And as such, I guess one of the questions I have is, it's distinctly possible that what is happening here is not the responsibility of Donnie himself. I mean, he didn't cause the initial incident, and while he closes the loop, that's on him to do. But he doesn't really cause any of this rip to begin with. And I do wonder if Grandma Death is in fact the source of what happens, because she managed to manipulate a thinny in the past and reset the universe according to her and survive that incident. Therefore, she created an alternate timeline that results in this black hole ripping into the sky and yanking off that jet engine and causing it to fall on Donnie's house. But her cheat of surviving and then writing this book is eventually what catches up, which is why she's constantly looking in the mailbox for the letter from Donnie to finally close the loop. That's the only way I can think of this.
Yeah, and also there's the concept of you sort of make a bargain with fate, where someone's dying, and if it's not going to be you, it's going to be someone else,
right?
And that's, and there's also the concept of when it's your time, and you can't. There's nothing you can do to try to stop that.
It has, there is a feeling of dark fate throughout this. That seems
right, and if you think too much about it, you'll just curl up in your bed and pull your blanket over your head.
Well, it's why it's fun as a movie. I don't really want it to be real life necessarily.
Yeah, well, no, and again, particularly with me having gone through a pretty serious surgical procedure.
Sure, yeah.
I've been certainly struggling with. Not to go too far off track, but I've been thinking a lot recently about the concept of, someone who's dealing with a chronic illness or even a terminal illness, being told that they're so brave and they're a fighter. And I don't think of myself as particularly brave. Do you know how I think of myself? I think of myself as lucky. I am doing well for my transplant because I am lucky. Yes, I'm I'm being compliant with doctor's orders and taking all my medications on time. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of people who do that and have a lot of problems,
sure.
A lot of setbacks, and sometimes, rarely, thankfully, a lot of them, some of them do, unfortunately, don't make it. And I don't like the insinuation that, those people were not fighters,
right,
or they didn't try hard enough. And so it's just, the turn of the wheel.
Sure.
The wheel particularly pointed at me for this situation. This time you're going to be the lucky one, and that's all I think of it as. It's not, there's no such thing as you could change the course of this. It's you're either lucky or you're not.
Right. And I feel you can be on all sorts of ends of that and feel guilty or responsible for it, and there's just so much out of your control, and you want the idea that you can control how your life turns out, I think can also drive you crazy. It just
right. I mean, you can to a certain extent.
Right. And to that point, I think there's an element of this movie that's also very King-like that I don't know that we've talked about as much as of late. And that is one of the hallmarks of this movie is the idea of a quartet, a group of people that can be friends, family, mix of that. Often it's strangers who are bound together by fate to stop something terrible from happening or spreading. And of course, you instantly think to things like the Losers Club and It, Roland's 3 in the Dark Tower series, the multiversal group from King's Desolation / The Regulators. Those characters are in both books, but from each story to the next, they have entirely different purposes and destinies within each novel's plot. and yet they've been drawn together, sometimes successfully and other times unsuccessfully, to stop what's happening.
Right.
And in Donnie Darko, his quartet includes not only family members and friends, but weirdly enough, antagonists. I say weirdly enough, but that's not really true, because in all those books, there are antagonists throughout them that are a part of the action. In the Langoliers, the Pinchot character is an antagonist. Like he is essentially so convinced that he's going to be eaten by the Langoliers, he's either going to drag everyone down to also be eaten by it, or just leave them behind and escape on his own. Not that he has the capacity, but in his mind, he does. So you have people who aren't helping, who are actively anti-helping here.
Right. Or you have, to bring up yet another Stephen King book, you have Insomnia, where you have, where they're not working together, but they're not actually trying to stop it, but they do a terrible thing that has to happen in order to keep, the wheels of what's meant to happen turning. Yeah. In this case, this is the character. He beats his wife pretty badly, and then later, does he blow it up or does he fly a plane?
He flies a plane,
right, into like an arena in which I believe, if memory serves, like some sort of feminist speaker is
having
giving
a pro-choice rally. Yeah.
Right. But this horrible thing, even though everybody does what they can to stop it, it has to happen. It is unfortunate, but sometimes bad things have to happen to keep everything moving in the direction it's supposed to be moving.
And Insomnia, you also, in a comparison point to Donnie Darko, you have a character who in Insomnia, he loses the ability to sleep night after night. He just goes to sleep less and less and less and less. But he discovers over the course of this that he's either going insane, or B, he's gaining supernatural abilities. He's getting younger. He's getting stronger. He now sees individual auras that reveal the truth behind a person's intentions, almost seeing their destiny out in front of them, which we literally see in Donnie Darko. And then there's these interdimensional beings that are trying to keep reality on track. And one of them is just trying to disrupt everything into chaos. So Insomnia was released in the mid-90s. So you don't see it physically here in Donnie Darko, but I have to assume that part of the inspiration of Darko and why I've always gone back to it is my love of Insomnia. I just think that is one of King's more unheralded works.
Yeah, it's so underrated because it's so unnerving, and how he ties in so many other of his books in sometimes in the smallest ways. Like when he finds, like he mentions finding Gage Creed's shoe,
right?
And that genuinely gave me a chill.
Yeah,
and it's just so brilliantly like you all of these things really do exist in the same universe. And
much as we had talked about previously, that King grinds a certain idea in the mill, and he doesn't always exhaust it in one try. There's just something about whatever this is that he keeps wanting to go back to. So the shoe shows up in Insomnia. It shows back up at the Dark Tower. And in Cell, another character carries around a child's shoe that they find after a cell group attack. And that totem is so important to them that I think eventually they end up dying trying to retrieve it. Remember Cell?
I mean, I remember reading it.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Hey, they can't all be,
They can't all be Insomnia.
They can't all be Insomnia. But what I think undoes Insomnia's legend is not so much its lack of quality, because I think it's a hell of a fucking book. I think it's long and people find that intimidating. And two, it has never had any type of interpretation on TV or in movies.
How could you?
I mean, how could you? But some of those ideas are within Insomnia are things that he's grinding again from Golden Years, where the whole point of Golden Years was here's this old man and he gets shot up with a bunch of chemicals from the same group who are from the farm, from
shop, you mean?
The shop, rather, the shop in Firestarter. And he starts to age in reverse and gain supernatural powers as he does. Another ABC production, I might add. And like that does not go over. And he's like, there's still something there. There's juice in this idea. And he finds another way to bring it to life.
Yeah, I mean, it suffers in the same way that Rose Matter does, in that these are both, very great, very chilling, very underrated, very lifting a lot from reality, and despite its fantastical elements, both involve the issue of domestic violence. But if anybody tried to actually bring any of these imageries to the screen, it would just not work. I'm just trying to think of some dude walking around with this like "Viva c'est boule."
Right. Yeah.
But it's creepy when reading it.
Yes, it is an idea that primarily works on the page because your imagination is better than any Hollywood studio. It just is. What lives in your mind with what he can evoke on the page, it's just always going to be a little bit better. And as a result, I can't imagine either being able to get away with what he puts down. And after a little while, King did start to get a little bit of the pushback of, hey, not every villain can be a domestic abuser, right? It can't be the thing you always go to.
Well, I mean, but it's like villains and someone who mistreats their, spouse and children. But I get what you're saying. That at a certain point, there's only so many ways you can present that concept.
There's just a streak of books where they all seem to have that in common. And then I think he laid off of it and found a new picadillo to get around, and maybe went back to crypto fascist churchgoers, which in a weird way is revisited here in Donnie Darko, as if you're going back into time into King's pocketbook of things to pull from.
Right.
So yeah, I really found it an interesting rewatch because it's so trapped in the bubble of when it was made. There's so many elements of it that are just so 1999, 2000, 2001. Even the backstory of how this kind of dies on the vine and gets reborn afterwards is so of its time. I don't, to remind people, because there are a lot of good sources on the background development of Donnie Darko and the many travails that went through to be seen by audiences in the wake of 9/11, that I don't know that going through all of that is necessarily our job.
It's pretty well documented at this point.
Yeah. It should be noted that people were of such a mania at this time to protect us from anything plane related that you literally had just a gap of time in which planes were not involved in movies in any threatening manner up until Snakes on a Plane.
Which was
Red Eye and Snakes on a Plane.
Was that like 2006, I think?
Yeah, it's around there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is from the same period where people thought that Peter Jackson, out of a sense of sensitivity, should have changed the name of the Two Towers. Which they weren't actually called the Two Towers. They were called the Twin Towers.
Right, yeah. And yet, it was an interesting time to be alive.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I was actually a latecomer to this movie because, given the time period and, how old I was, I heard, teen alienation. And I thought, well, I'm not the audience for this movie.
Right, yeah.
And then, and then 2003 came, which was one of the worst emotionally fraught years of my life. And I got very heavy into the cover of Mad World, which and I'm obviously not the first to say this. Like Johnny Cash's cover of "Hurt" has pretty much surpassed the original. The Tears for Fears version is very poppy.
Yeah.
And this one is very slow and sad.
Yes. And when it played, Ollie was like, "This is where that song is from." I'm like, "Yeah, you're absolutely." I mean, right. The guy had done it previously, but this was its first big media exposure.
Right. And I would bet dollars to donuts that Ollie has probably never heard of Tears for Fears, let alone heard their original version of it.
You would be incorrect because I introduced him to Tears for Fears quite early.
Did you introduce him to Mad World?
That particular version of Mad World? No. The Tears for Fears version he had heard, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he had heard the other one through like Instagram reels,
right? And it has become a well-tread song if you want to get an emotional response from your audience.
Yes, or a comedic doesn't match the vibe.
I'm a big fan of just posting innocuous photos of the line. I find it kind of funny. I find it kind of sad. The dream was dying. It's the best I've ever had. I think I use it to like a picture of a guy who was wearing a jar of mayonnaise costume.
Yeah. It is that.
And that picture most recently, with the Vanity Fair shoot of Trump's cabinet. Where we're a very dejected looking Marco Rubio. Just like thinking back, it didn't have to be this way.
Yes. I think that gift was given to us by Vine. That's how early on it was being used. Manner. I would suggest people who want to know more about the Richard Kelly of this song. There's a what went wrong episode where they always tell you what went wrong in the making of a movie. And they have it covering Southland Tales. And that whole thing is like, it's an extremely messy movie. It's shown to Cannes festival audiences way too early. And it ends up fucking over the end product in profound ways. And that podcast just goes into excruciating detail of how the movie was developed and financed. But in that, they go into Donnie Darko a fair amount. And in particular, that the best producer Scream ever had becomes the best producer Donnie Darko ever had, Drew Barrymore, because she found a way to make this movie for under $5 million.
God bless.
Honestly, we don't give it up to Drew Barrymore as much as we need to. She's not just a brief cameo in Smile 2. She brings so much more to the table.
She owed Hollywood nothing. Zero. And yet, she continues to be a bright light in it.
Yes. If you're looking for an explanation as to how the events of this film play out, once again, YouTube is full of them. You will get wildly different takes with every click as someone gives you their interpretation of what is a rather open-ended idea of time travel and multiverses, in which Donnie discovers that he's been spared from a death, being crushed by a plane engine from a plane that no one could find, and has 28 days to change and reset his timeline before the entire universe falls apart. And believe me, if you want to see theories, everyone on Earth has them. And you can tell us yours. I'm not immune to it. I don't know that I have it within me to definitively tell people what happens in this movie.
No, and for instance, I had mentioned earlier that I that there are elements of just teen alienation, particularly with these kids. These kids don't have any problems; they just need an attitude adjustment, which is
right.
You still see now, where you see people saying, if we just went back to beating our children, the world will be a better place. You've got I think it's very funny that we're doing this, and I don't know too much about it because it's been mostly on Blue Sky, and I've been in Threads. I've been assiduously staying away from those places recently. Mm-hmm. But there was a therapist influencer, God help us all, we've all died and this is hell, who was uncovered for being, guess what, Patrick? A sex pest.
A sex creep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, rather, presciently, is that presciently a word? Fucking it is now.
Yeah.
We have this motivational speaker, ingeniously played by Patrick Swayze.
Right.
Who is exposed to be a big old pedo. And, and it really makes you wonder. It's like, yeah, maybe we should kind of look at people who think that they have all the answers and, have very strong opinions about how other people should be living their lives, with a very, jaded, skeptical eye. Because usually when you're busy telling other people, what they're doing wrong in their lives and how they can improve their lives and, what they should be doing to make it better, it's usually because they're hiding some bullshit of their own.
Right. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
It's this undercurrent of everything. And of course, I think it's so odd that so much of the community really casts, I guess because in a sense, what we don't know until later in the movie or halfway through the movie is the sort of Donnie backstory of him having genuine emotional regulation problems and him burning down an empty house.
Well, that's why you got a little bit of I don't even know if you can, you say, well, this is an unreliable narrator because the whole timeline is unreliable. But, one very obvious interpretation you can make is that none of this is actually happening, that he's, right, having some sort of mental breakdown. I feel like that's a little, while I did use this as an example of what I felt to be a good and thoughtful portrayal of mental illness in young people in my book, I think to say that this is all happening in his head, I think that is overall too simplified.
I agree.
But I think that does add an additional layer to it.
You can absolutely frame it in that manner. And what I found interesting this time watching it was how much of the plot is reflected in everything everyone's talking about. Because obviously, is it Graham Greene's The Destruct? Are they The Destructors? Is that what the short story is?
I think so.
Obviously that has a ton of, it reverberates throughout the movie. The two guys who, one of whom never did anything again. A Seth Rogen, not familiar.
Yeah, I don't know.
The other guy,
the cast in this is crazy,
fucking insane. Like the other guy is Alex Greenwald. I'm like, why is that name familiar? Because he's the lead singer of fucking Phantom Planet, and I heard the song California a million times because I was at Fox when the OC launched.
Well, Wiley. Now, granted, this was 2001, so we're not Silver Fox bearded Noah Wiley, but he is in it.
He is in it, and he does look rather fucking handsome in it. And
it
makes you pine for a movie that's just Drew Barrymore and Noah Wiley of this time. You're like, I feel like I'm being denied an entire plot line here that is really focused on them, but we only see them in the briefest amounts. And I found their presence here really reassuring and fun.
They're among the few adults other than Donnie's parents who offer, a sense of warmth and understanding rather than just, what do you kids got to be upset about? You have your whole lives in front of you.
Yeah. And as such, like everyone who is remotely close to Donnie over the course of the movie subtly becomes stripped away from him as the film goes on. His parents become more and more like they love him. That's throughout. But there is this sort of like, I don't know, we're reaching the end of what we can do here, because it's obvious there's a good, smart kid at the center of it, but his problems are so immense. And now we're being told he's having these daytime hallucinations that would presuppose him to be a full bore schizophrenic. That, like, how are we going to take that on? What are we going to do here?
Right, which I think is a very realistic response. I mean, who knows how to react, in a constructive and forward thinking way when they discover that their child is grievously ill.
Yeah.
Whether it's mentally or physically, like your first instinct is going to be, I don't know what to do here. I want to help, but this is beyond my ken.
Yeah. And we, at least, every time Donnie gets into one scrape or the other at school and they're brought into the fray, you can tell that part of, mom and dad's makeup here is that they do enjoy Donnie as a person. Like, yes, he's troubled, he's brash, he says things that upset people, but what he says to upset people is quite often, I don't buy your bullshit. It's what Drew Barrymore's teacher and what Noah Wiley's teacher enjoy about him as well. But over the course of the movie, the fates align where because Karen Pomeroy has taught this short story in her class, she's going to get fired by the religious tight ass. And the people who run that school do not care to cause any problems, which is why they invite Jim Cunningham, solid citizen of Middlesex, to have so much access to underage students.
Right. And again, that's remarkably eerily prescient.
Yes.
Where it's, these children aren't capable of thinking for themselves. They had to have been given this idea from this bad book or this bad movie or this bad TV show. And I mean, this has been bullshit that was pressed upon us with horror movies and Satanism and things like that. Mm-hmm. It's because, why would a child come up with these things on their own? These horrible thoughts, and why would they come up with the idea of being sad? What do young people have to be sad about? Someone must have given them the idea to be sad. And this is why so much, anti-drug rhetoric of the 80s was useless, because it never took into account that happy people don't get addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
There had to have been an underlying problem, and it wasn't that someone offered you a joint in the school bathroom.
Yeah.
Which has never happened to anybody in the history of ever.
Yeah. And it's interesting, these mooring points of what might keep Donnie on a track to not sacrifice himself. Fate kind of starts pulling them away. Now, there's a playful antagonism with between Donnie and his dad, where the dad secretly loves that his kid is a smartass, loves how his kid is a smartass, but also has this sort of thing where he's going to travel. And then Mary McDonald's Rose, she ends up having to take Sparkle Motion to the West Coast to film Star Search. And then you have Maggie Gyllenhaal's Elizabeth learning that she's going to go off to college. So she's already starting to pull away. And then Donnie's friends are kind of dumb idiots. I wouldn't even say charming dumb idiots. They're
just teenage idiots.
Yes. And they're also useless in the end. Like, as soon as bad things start to happen, they just run for the hills. They do not have any bravery gene within them. That, I'm not asking them to, but that's their kind of point. And then Gretchen, the most sort of grounding element that would make Donnie want to stay in that universe, is ripped away from him after she's run over by Frank.
Right. Which is another like, oh shit.
Yes. So it is this ultimate thing where the universe is making it very plain to Donnie that staying in this universe is not going to benefit him anything. There's nothing to stick around for in this version of him.
Right.
But
it's like you could stay, but you could also deal with this crushing grief.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, you killed someone.
Yes.
So now what are you going to do?
Right.
Maybe just climb back, go back to another universe, climb into bed, and accept the inevitable.
Yes. And I don't know that anyone's going to, help you with yes, she was thrown by a knife wielding maniac into the road. And that's why after you shoot somebody, people aren't going to listen to the complicating factors anymore. So yeah, all the things that were sort of mooring him to this version of the universe are being stripped away from him, which makes it a little bit easier for him to face a destiny that was sort of always meant to happen to a certain degree. And he got to have these 28 extra days. So what he's doing is sacrificing himself. He's not committing any sort of self-harm to himself here.
Right. He's literally just accepting his fate.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I was like, oh, this is fucking obvious, but I had never put it together in that the fear-love thing is always presented by Cunningham and Kitty as a binary. It's one or the other. And they never consider for a second that what's being told to Donnie is not this binary, but literally it's a path from one to the other. He has to stop the fear and accept the love of the sacrifice he's about to make. The reason he does it is love, not fear.
Right.
It is the only binary choice in the entire movie. And so hopefully if he makes that choice, then perhaps Gretchen's mom's situation is not quite as dire for whatever reason. We never really know what happens there, but you have to assume that it's not good.
Yeah.
But if the world is like subtly collapsing in on itself, is she part of the world that realized in a dreamlike state that 28-day preview? Because we see the people wake up in the 28-day preview element from Jim Cunningham and from Kitty. And obviously it affects Rose because after learning that her child has died, she's just leaning up against a tree and smoking them if you got them.
I mean, either that or run around the street screaming. So,
yes, I can't imagine. It's horrific, the entire concept of it. But I do love that they're in a way like Donnie's able to give people a much brighter future than they would have had otherwise. This is an inflection point, much like the incident in 11/22/63 and Insomnia.
Right, exactly.
And I really dug this. Like, it is very well, like, it's still messy in parts. I'm not really sure I love the needle drop. I'm not so sure I love the actual orchestral soundtrack of this movie. I feel it's a little mid.
I think it works pretty well in the movie theater scene, which I would say is probably the most, even if you haven't seen the movie, this scene.
Yeah.
Because it's creepy, it's nightmarish, and I think it works well there. But otherwise, not terribly memorable.
Yes. And the more obvious elements there that are brought up is him asking Frank, why do you wear that bunny suit? And Frank asking, why do you still wear that person suit? Because you're not really alive anymore. You're kind of pretending to be alive in this alternate timeline in which you are not there. But also, there's an element of fate here. The reason why he's not in that bedroom is he's lulled out of it. So he can therefore close the time loop that he never opened in the first place, and Grandma Death probably did. I said I wasn't going to explain this movie, and here I go trying to explain the fucking movie.
Yeah, but I think you still, in essence, just scratched the surface.
Yeah, it was not.
You could come away with your own interpretations of it, whatever helps you sleep after watching it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just one of those movies that I think of that time, post Sixth Sense, had people in a tizzy. They loved the mystery box. It's such a fun diversion from what feels like a little bit of the world collapsing in on its own weight.
Right.
Post 9/11 and the 2000 election, which were all dire inflection points that I hate to point to, but yeah, big reason why we're in the fucking spot we're in.
Right. And I would, it would certainly lends, weight to the theory that, history can, be, divided between, let's say modern history can be, neatly delineated between September 10th, 2011 and September 12th, 2001, September 10th, 2001 and September 12th, 2001.
Right. Yeah. I this was a very interesting rewatch, and it did send Ollie off on a bit of there was a full 45-minute conversation afterwards about it.
Yeah, and it's you say it. I do agree with you that there is a lot of 1999 to it.
Yeah,
but I think the core story is eternal.
I also agree, because there's so much of it that feels relevant to the entire, sort of teenage saga. The very fact that the movie neighborhood that Donnie lives in is has a rich history of movie locations. It's in Long Beach, by the way.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it supposed to be California though?
It's supposed to be Middlesex, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
But it's been used by a whole bunch of different productions. It shows up in Reanimator. It shows up in a bunch. It's down by the Country Club. It's in Not Another Teen Movie.
Do you think it's for the the typical upper class American suburbness of it?
Yes, it has all this different kind of architecture to it. So you can have these sort of Gothic buildings, like the Jim Cunningham house was created by a guy who struck oil in Long Beach early on, and so he built this giant mansion. But there's also all of these sort of Tudor homes, and then there are these sort of traditional white things with columns, like the Ferris Bueller house is in that same neighborhood. So it's seen in so many different movies. And then for it to show up in Donnie Darko, it was kind of like, oh yeah, people used to film movies in California, everybody. Specifically in Long Beach. Come to Long Beach and film shit, people. I'd love to see you.
I was going to say, you got to set up a tour.
I think they happen already, honestly. But yeah, that neighborhood just has a lot of history to it. And it was a joy to see it again, as opposed to just drive down it heading to somebody's party, which I've done on 3 or 4 occasions because I'm lucky enough to know a couple of people who live over in that hood. Their houses, holy shit. Anyways, the Americana element of this movie, I think, people were looking for a little bit of that, and how something this monumental can happen within it. It has the juice. It's just one of those things that people look back on and like, there's a lot going on here. And then, like you said, the fact that Seth Rogen turns up in this movie has what, 5 lines total?
Yeah, he's a bully.
Yeah. He's just a bulky
and he looks like a baby. He's a baby man in it.
He does very much look like a baby man. And yeah, the movie just, and the fact that Maggie and Jake Gyllenhaal are able to carry over what feels like a very genuine brother-sister vibe. You can just feel like this is the way they've always needled each other. And so all this is an artificial, presentation of what is actually there.
Right. They bicker, but they're still, like when he senses that Elizabeth is starting to distance him, that's painful.
Yeah.
And of course it also creates the element of, well, how did he not know this was her boyfriend?
Yeah.
Because she hasn't introduced him yet. It's like
she's been sneaking off in the middle of the night.
It's like, all right, she's hiding this from me. Why? I mean, and similar to when you have friends, which is definitely a thing when you're a teenager, is when you get to a certain point, you have these friends or you have these siblings where you could tell them everything and then tell you anything. And then you get to a realization, oh, wait, they're hiding something from me.
Yeah.
And usually it's nothing personal, but it feels personal. It feels like, well, I guess that's the end of that. I mean, like, I guess the dynamics have started to change and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
And it's painful.
Yes. And then you have the joy of like, this is like one of, I think maybe my favorite Mary McDonnell performance. I think she's like an underrated mom actor. Like she just plays moms so well. And here, like she is such a fucking delight. The way she'll kind of pose in front of other parents and let it drop in front of others. The way she plays this is so fucking interesting. Holmes Osborne, a guy I don't think we got nearly enough of as that guy, is really good here. The entire thing is well cast. James Duvall, who just came out of a completely different era of independent cinema, playing the Frank character, is one of those like always like, who is that guy? I'm like, you're going to find out all about him as you get older, because he has a whole series of movies that you're on the edge of being ready for
when you're a little older.
Yeah. But he's come a long, long way. We watched The Fucking Conversation the other week, Gina. It was let me tell you, conversation we had after that was interesting. But yeah, it's kind of joyous that I'm able to present him with a much more complicated litany of motion pictures to see, and how he tackles them now as opposed to even a few years ago. It's really been fun. Well,
and it works because despite some of the dated elements of it, the core aspect of it is it's universal. It's timeless.
Yeah.
And I think that it probably, I'm not surprised that it would land with teenagers now as well as it back then. And, to a certain extent, adults too. Yeah. I'm glad that I get a chance after a while. It wasn't like I was like, oh, this must be terrible. It was more like, oh, I'm not the core audience for this.
Right. And I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it on DVD. And it was only after walking into a restaurant across from where I lived in North Hollywood. I was picking up a pizza, and there were 2 women who were discussing what they had seen recently. And the other one said, have you seen Donnie Darko? It's like the best thing I've seen in a long time. And it's like, I've never heard of what that is. And she goes, don't learn anything else about it. Just watch it. I went to a video store that night, rented it, and watched it without knowing a damn thing about it. And I'm like, oh, I've discovered this thing. And I think a lot of people felt that Donnie Darko was a movie discovery they made.
Right. Because I don't think it made much of a dent at the box office.
No, it really couldn't. It was released it limped into a small amount of theaters. And then there was some debate whether or not they were even going to release it on home video, and Barrymore pushed for it. And so they released it on DVD, and that's where its life begins. It goes from 0 to 100 of people because when they showed it at Sundance, it didn't make much of a dent. People were like, it's fine. I don't know. It just didn't spark. That's
surprising. I was going to it seems like the type of movie where it would only elicit strong opinions in either direction, not a Larry David.
It just goes to show you, those things can be, those barometers can not really just give a movie's future sort of, it's not as great a tea leaf as it purports to be. I think it's gotten worse over time. I think the only time it really is even remotely accurate has to do with genre stuff. But you can really snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. Like You're Next, the movie we will be talking about soon, is another one of those that was snatched up at a festival and sat on for 2 fucking years until its buzz was decimated and other movies kind of snatched its vibe and its crown before it could see movie theaters because they were just fucking with it for no particular reason.
It's kind of ironic because I would say that Donnie Darko is probably among the most iconic movies of that period.
I would agree with you. It is just that because home video and particularly DVD had the power that it had at the time, people would take flyers on a $20 DVD that now they don't take flyers on a $20 ticket at the movies.
Right.
That just goes to show that ownership had a lot to do with that phenomenon. And B, that was a great market for people to, if it didn't make a ton of money, a movie could still turn a profit eventually. It allowed more art to be produced rather than less.
The good old days.
The good old days. I'd love to say that this is a movie where we could choose our own death venture, and we still can. It's just 3 bummers. It's either be thrown into the road and run over by a Trans Am, shot in the eyeball, or be crushed by jet engine. What say you, Gina?
I mean, obviously the jet engine is the fastest one. I mean, he was asleep.
He knows it's coming.
That's true. You make
he
a
laughs
good point.
Himself to sleep, and then it happens.
Yeah, but I kind of like that. I mean, and also I want to, even though no one will ever know it, I like the idea of being a hero in the end.
Yes. And I feel like if I'm condemned to walk around in a bunny suit for 28 extra days, I don't like how I'm going to smell at the end of that, especially when I'm constantly leaking blood and brain fluid into it at all times.
Yeah, that's going to be that's going to be rank. That's gonna make stink lines.
It really is. So yeah, I'll go jet engine too. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write periodically recently about movies and pop culture on my newsletter, GinaWatchesThings.ghost.io, and I am mostly on Instagram under Gina Does Things.
Do it today. People, check it out. Go to screamshare.beehive.com. That's BEEHIIV.com to get weekly streaming horror movie suggestions right into your inbox for free. Join us for special events later on in June here. We will have a watch party for everyone to check out. We're going to do something fun on the 12th of June. The 12th of June. So that isn't that far away. And of course, you can find us on our socials. Join our Patreon to help support the podcast and get bonus episodes to boot. And then, of course, you can go to our t-shirt shop for more. Thank you to Josh for all of our artwork, and of course, Revenge Bonnie for our theme music. I need to mention them more often. They're an incredible and vital part of Team Kill by Kill, as of course are you, our loyal listener. Thank you so much. Don't worry, folks. The body count will continue. For myself and for Gina, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm gonna give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car is gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you might not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. They make it super simple. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with coverage options tailored to your choices. Plus, you'll see which discounts you may qualify for, like the online quote discount or savings for paying in full. In fact, 99% of Progressive Auto customers earn at least one discount. See if you could save when you switch to Progressive. You'll feel good about making a savvy choice. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little extra cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.